of pseudo-realism. Pseudo-realistic, exhibiting pseudo-realism. Pseudo-realists, plural of pseudo-realists. Pseudo-realities, plural of pseudo-reality. Pseudo-reality, an apparent reality that is in fact a delusion. Pseudoreceptor, a receptor protein that lacks an intracellular serine/threonine protein kinase domain. Pseudoreceptors, plural of pseudoreceptor. Pseudorecollection, a false memory. Pseudorecollections, plural of pseudorecollection. Pseudorecombinant, relating to pseudorecombination. Pseudorecombinance, plural of pseudorecombinant. Pseudorecombination, the exchange of nucleic acid between two organisms, typically viruses. Plural of pseudorecombinant. Pseudorecombination, the exchange of nucleic acid between two organisms, typically viruses. Pseudorecombinations, plural of pseudorecombination. Pseudorecombined, formed by pseudorecombination. Pseudoregius, simplified by using pseudocritical parameters. Pseudoreduction, something that resembles a reduction but is not a true reduction. Pseudoreductions, plural of pseudoreduction. Pseudoreference, describing reference electrodes whose potential, though not constant, varies predictably. Pseudoreferendum, a sham referendum. Pseudoreferendums, plural of pseudoreferendum. Pseudoreflection, an invertible linear transformation of a finite-dimensional vector space such that it is not the identity transformation, has a finite multiplicative order, and fixes a hyperplane. Pseudoreflections, plural of pseudoreflection. Pseudoreflexive, of a verb requiring the use of a reflexive construction when no reflexive action is actually taking place. Pseudoreform, supposed reform that does not bring about significant change. Pseudoreforms, plural of pseudoreform. Pseudorelational, having certain elements of a relational database. Pseudoreligion, non-mainstream belief or philosophy with certain aspects of religion, a founder, a principal text, faith-based beliefs, etc. Pseudo-religions, plural of pseudo-religion. Pseudo-religious, of or pertaining to pseudo-religion. Pseudo-remainder, a value in pseudo-division more or less corresponding to the remainder in normal division. Pseudo-remainders, plural of pseudo-remainder. Pseudo-reminiscence, a false memory. Pseudo-reminiscences, plural of pseudo-reminiscence. Pseudo-repetitive, apparently or approximately repetitive. Pseudo-replicate, any of a group of interdependent data that are mistakenly treated as independent. Pseudo-replicated, simple past and past participle of pseudo-replicate. Pseudo-replicates, plural of pseudo-replicate. Pseudo-replicating, present participle and gerund of pseudo-replicate. Pseudo-replication, the exaggeration of the statistical significance of a set of measurements resulting from treating the data as independent observations when they are in fact interdependent. Pseudo replications, plural of pseudo-replication. Pseudo-representation, given a group G and a commutative ring R, a tuple of maps a dx, where a d:(g right arrow R and x:(gx right arrow R are a pseudo-representation if they satisfy the relations one would expect if a G and dg were the diagonal entries of a two-dimensional representation a gbg\cgdg and if x was given by xgg equals bgcg. Pseudo-representations, plural of pseudo-representations. Representation. Pseudoresidual. The difference between the observed value and the median. Pseudoresiduals. Plural of pseudoresidue. Pseudoresonant. Exhibiting pseudoresonance. Pseudoresponse. Alternative spelling of pseudoresponse. Pseudoresponses. Plural of pseudoresponse. Pseudoreticulite. Having a false reticulum, usually formed by anastomizing ridges. Pseudoreticulum. An apparent reticulum of cells on the surface of a spherical vesicle. Retroortroviral. Relating to a retroortrovirus. Pseudoreversible. This reaction, especially it has a reaction in which the products of the adverse reaction are identical with the studying materials. Pseudoreversion. The reversion of a mutation in which the products are different from the originals. Pseudoreversions. Plural of pseudoreversion. Pseudorevertant. That has undergone pseudoreversion. Pseudorevertance. Plural of pseudorevertant. Pseudorevolution. A political event resembling, but not actually, a revolution. Pseudorevolutionaries. Plural of pseudorevolutionary. Pseudorevolutionary. Having the appearance but not the essence of a revolutionary. Pseudorevolutions. Plural of pseudorevolution. Pseudohabdite. One of the rod-like corpuscles found in the integument of certain turbellaria filled with a soft granular substance. Pseudohabdites. Plural of pseudohabdite. Pseudorheumatoid. Seemingly rheumatoid but not, that is, clinically similar but pathophysiologically different. Pseudohombic. Describing a structure that is almost rhombohedral. Pseudohombicubuctahedron. A convex polyhedron similar to rhombicubuctahedron but not uniform. Pseudohombicubuctahedrons. Plural of pseudohombicubuctahedron. Pseudohombohedral. Having the external appearance of being rhombohedral. Pseudohomboid. Relating to certain rhomboid proteases. Pseudoring. Any various variants of ring. Pseudorings. Plural of pseudoring. Pseudoriparian. That is close or similar to riparian. Pseudo-ritualistic. Having certain ritualistic aspects without being a ritual. Pseudo-romantic. Spuriously romantic, schmaltzy. Pseudoroni. An alkaloid found in the roots of Papaver pseudo-orientale. Pseudowort. A fake root word. Pseudoroots. Plural of pseudoroot. Pseudorosette. A structure resembling a rosette tumor cell formation that is not a true rosette. Pseudorosettes. Plural of pseudorosette. Pseudorotamer. A relatively inflexible molecule that is a rotamer at low energies. Pseudorotamers. Plural of pseudorotamer. Pseudorotase. To undergo pseudorotation. Pseudorotated. Simple past and past participle of pseudorotate. Pseudorotation. A form of stereoisomerization that appears to have been produced by rotation of a molecule. Pseudorotational. Relating to pseudorotation. Pseudorotations. Plural of pseudorotation. Pseudorotaxane. Any complex having the general form of a rotaxane, but in which the linear component does not have bulky end groups. Pseudorotaxanes. Plural of pseudorotaxane. Pseudoethosratid. Any extinct cephalopod in the family Pseudoethosratidae. Pseudoethosratids. Plural of pseudoethosratid. Pseudoethosra. Any member of the Pseudoethosrida order of cephalopods. Pseudoethosrids. plural of pseudothosrid. Pseudorunic, apparently, but not actually, runic. Pseudorutile, a mineral form of ferric titanate. Pseudorutiles, plural of pseudorutile. Pseudos, plural of pseudo. Pseudosac, a non-gestational sac that develops in the uterus during an ectopic pregnancy. Pseudosaccharide, any of several heterocyclic compounds that have a five-membered ring with two oxygen atoms in positions 1 and 3. Pseudosaccharides, plural of pseudosaccharide. Pseudosacred, apparently, but not actually, sacred. Pseudosacrifice, something resembling a sacrifice that is not a true sacrifice, especially chess, an offer of material made at no risk, since acceptance would lead to the gain of equal or greater material or checkmate. Pseudo-sacrifices, plural of pseudo-sacrifice. Pseudo-sacs, plural of pseudosac. Pseudo-sagittal, apparently or approximately sagittal. Pseudosample, a body of data that is generated usually by adding random perturbations to actual data rather than observed. Pseudosamples, plural of pseudosample. Pseudosampling, the selection of a pseudosample. Pseudosarcomatous, having the outward appearance of a sarcoma. Pseudoscalar, a quantity that behaves like a scalar but changes sign under a parity inversion. Pseudoscalars, plural of pseudoscalar. Pseudoscarlatina, a non-bacterial condition resembling scarlet fever. Pseudoschizont, a parasite that has some characteristics of a schizont. Pseudoschizonts, plural of pseudoschizont. Pseudoschizophrenia, any of various conditions resembling schizophrenia in their symptoms, but not necessarily schizophrenic in origin. Pseudoschizophrenias, plural of pseudoschizophrenia. Pseudoschizophrenic, of or relating to pseudoschizophrenia. Pseudoschizophrenics, plural of pseudoschizophrenic. Pseudoscholarly, apparently, but not actually, scholarly. Pseudoscholarship, alternative form of pseudoscholarship. Pseudoscholastic, apparently, but not actually, scholastic. Pseudoscience, any body of knowledge that purports to be scientific or to be supported by science or may appear to be scientific but which fails to comply with the scientific method or rather is not true science. Pseudosciences, plural of pseudoscience. Pseudoscientific, of, relating to, or employing pseudoscience, not scientific, though purporting to be scientific. Pseudoscientifical, synonym of pseudoscientific. Pseudoscientifically, in a pseudoscientific way or manner. Pseudoscientificalness, synonym of pseudoscientificness. Pseudoscientificness, the state or quality of being pseudoscientific. Pseudoscientism, a pseudoscientific approach or attitude. Pseudoscientisms, plural of pseudoscientism. Pseudoscientists, a practitioner of pseudoscience, a bogus or sham scientist. Pseudoscientistic, characteristic of pseudoscientists. Pseudoscientists, plural of pseudoscientists. Pseudospleroderma, dermal fibrosis resembling scleroderma and occurring in conjunction with another disease. Pseudosclerodermas, plural of pseudospleroderma. Pseudosplerodermatis, having or relating to pseudospleroderma. Pseudosclerosis, a disease resembling multiple sclerosis, but in which the characteristic lesions are absent. Pseudosclerotial, apparently sclerotial. Pseudosclerotic, relating to pseudosclerosis. Pseudosclerotium, a tight mass of fungal mycelia and soil that resembles a true sclerotium. Pseudoscope, an optical instrument that reverses perception of depth. Pseudoscopes, plural of pseudoscope. Pseudoscopic, of pertaining to or formed by a pseudoscope, appearing with its relief parts reversed. Pseudoscopically, in a pseudoscopic manner. Pseudoscopy, reversed perception of depth. Pseudoscorpion, misspelling of pseudoscorpion. Pseudoscorpion, an arachnid belonging to the order Pseudoscorpions, also known as Pseudoscorpionida or Chelonthidae. Pseudoscorpions, plural of pseudoscorpion. Pseudoscule, a false osculum or secondary opening which replaces the original osculum of a sponge. Pseudoscules, plural of pseudoscule. Pseudoscutal, of or relating to a pseudoscutum. Pseudoscutum, a structure resembling a scutum. Pseudoseasonal, having some, but not all, seasonal characteristics. Pseudosecret, a supposed secret that is not actually secret, open secret. Pseudosecrets, plural of pseudosecret. Pseudosecular, apparently, but not actually, secular. Pseudosegmentation, apparent segmentation, typically of a nematode, by the formation of a series of rings on the body. Pseudosegmentations, plural of pseudosegmentation. Pseudosegmented, having pseudosegmentation. Pseudoseizure, a psychogenic non-epileptic seizure distinguished from epilepsy only in not being associated with abnormal rhythmic discharges of cortical neurons. Pseudoseizures, plural of pseudoseizure. Pseudoselector, a kind of selector that identifies something not explicitly labeled in the document markup. Pseudoselectors, plural of pseudoselector. Pseudosensitive, appealing to a superficial or exaggerated need for tact. Pseudosentence, a grammatically correct sentence that has no inherent meaning. Pseudosentences, plural of pseudosentence. Pseudosentience, a state or condition that is not sentience but seemingly or nearly approaches it or simulates it. Pseudosentient, seemingly sentient but not truly so. Pseudosepta, plural of pseudoseptum. Pseudoseptum, a plate of silica that extends inwards from the apical part of the valve of some diatoms. Pseudosequence, an apparent sequence used as a key in data compression. Pseudosequences, plural of pseudosequence. Pseudoservice, something offered or presented as a service that is not actually useful. Pseudoservices, plural of pseudoservice. Pseudosexual, apparently, but not actually sexual. Pseudosexuality, quality of being pseudosexual. Pseudosheath, a structure that resembles a sheath and forms around a tendon graft. Pseudosibling, one who is not a sibling but has a relationship of that kind. Pseudosiblings, plural of pseudosibling. Pseudosilent, apparently, but not actually, silent. Pseudosingularities, plural of pseudosingularity. Pseudosynhalite, a monoclinic prismatic colorless mineral containing aluminum, boron, hydrogen, magnesium, and oxygen. Pseudosink, a habitat that appears to be a sink due to its high immigration rate but which could support a smaller stable population in the absence of immigration. Pseudosinks, plural of pseudosink, Pseudosiphon. Any structure that has the appearance of the siphon of a mollusk. Pseudosiphons. Plural of pseudosiphon. Pseudosite. An incorrect binding site that resembles the desired one. Pseudosites. Plural of pseudosite. Pseudoskeptic. A skeptic who claims to be approaching the disputed issue in a neutral manner but who is actually prejudiced against it. Pseudoskeptical. Of a skeptic or their views, claiming to approach the disputed issue in a neutral manner but actually prejudiced against it. Pseudoskepticism. The attitude of a pseudoskeptic. Pseudoskeptics. Plural of pseudoskeptic. Pseudoskill. A fake or ingenuine skill, something approximating a skill. Pseudoskills. Plural of pseudoskill. Pseudoslave. Someone whose condition resembles, but is not actually, slavery. Pseudoslavery. A condition that resembles, but is not actually, slavery. Pseudoslaves. Plural of pseudoslave. Pseudosocial. Apparently, but not actually, social. Pseudosocialistic. Apparently, but not actually, socialistic. Pseudosociologies. Plural of pseudosociology. Pseudosociology. A false or superficial version of sociology. Pseudo-solid. A very viscous liquid. Pseudosolids. Plural of pseudosolid. Pseudosolution. A suspension or colloid that has very small particles. Pseudosolutions. Plural of pseudosolution. Pseudosophisticated. Alternative spelling of pseudosophisticated. Pseudosophistication. A false sophistication. Pseudospace. That which appears to be space or a space or has only some aspects of space. Pseudospaces. Plural of pseudospace. Pseudospatial. Being or relating to a pseudospace, apparently but not actually spatial. Pseudospeciation. The formation of self-contained groups, typically of humans that have different language, customs, or other social grouping. Pseudospeciations. Plural of pseudospeciation. Pseudospecies. A group of organisms created by pseudospeciation. Pseudospectra. Plural of pseudospectrum. Pseudospectral. Describing a class of numerical analysis methods related to spectral methods. Pseudospectrum. A set containing the spectrum of an operator and the numbers that are almost eigenvalues. Pseudospermatophore. A structure in many monogeneans similar to a spermatophore that is used to prevent escape of sperm from the vagina. Pseudospermatophores. Plural of pseudospermatophore. Pseudosphere. A surface generated by rotating attractrix about its asymptote, attractricoid. Pseudospheres. Plural of pseudosphere. Pseudospherical. Shaped like a pseudosphere. Pseudospikelet. A synflorescence in bamboos consisting of multiple spikelet-like structures that develop from buds. Pseudospikelets. Plural of pseudospikelet. Pseudospin. A quantum degree of freedom analogous to spin. Pseudospinner. A pseudospin analog of a spinner. Pseudospinners. Plural of pseudospinner. Pseudospins. Plural of pseudospin. Pseudospintronic. Relating to pseudospintronics. Pseudospintronics. A form of spintronics that relies upon pseudospin. Pseudospiritual. Apparently, but not truly, spiritual. Pseudospirituality. A system of spiritual beliefs or practices that is understood as inauthentic or incorrect. Pseudosplice is splice that is ignored by the spliceosome. Pseudospoofing, the use of a Sybil attack. Pseudospore, a reproductive cell found in some fungi. Pseudospores, plural of pseudospore. Pseudosport, any competitive event designed for spectators to watch, more lowbrow and involving less skill than a traditional sport. Pseudosports, plural of pseudosport. Pseudostar, any light in the sky that may be erroneously identified as a star. Pseudostarchy, apparently composed of starch, but actually composed of another complex carbohydrate. Pseudostars, plural of pseudostar. Pseudostate, a geopolitical entity which has some of the trappings of an independently governed country or territory, but which lacks real independence and is not recognized as a self-governing political entity by the international community of nations. Pseudostatement, an unverifiable statement. Pseudostatements, plural of pseudostatement. Pseudostates, plural of pseudostate. Pseudostatistical, having some statistical aspect, but not truly statistical. Pseudostatus, ellipsis of pseudostatus epilepticus. Pseudostatus epilepticus, an episode of prolonged seizure which presents similarly to status epilepticus, but is of non-epileptic and often psychogenic origin. Pseudostellarin, any of several cyclic peptides obtained from plants of the genus Pseudostellaria, many of which have biological activity. Pseudostellarins, plural of pseudostellarin. Pseudostem, a false stem made of the rolled bases of leaves. Pseudostems, plural of pseudostem. Pseudostereo, a technique or effect that simulates stereo in sound or visual imagery. Pseudostigma, a pit in the integument of some mites, which acts as the socket of a sensillum. Pseudostigmata, plural of pseudostigma. Pseudostigmatic, relating to pseudostigmata. Pseudostigmatid, any damselfly fly in the family Pseudostigmatidae. Pseudostigmatids, plural of pseudostigmatid. Pseudostipular, of or relating to a pseudostipule. Pseudostipule, an often modified basal pair of leaflets of a compound leaf appearing very close to the stem. Pseudostipules, plural of pseudostipule. Pseudostoichiometric, apparently or approximately stoichiometric. Pseudostoma, a group of cells resembling a stoma, but without any true aperture among them. Pseudostomata, plural of pseudostoma. Pseudostome, the oral opening on the pseudoembio of an echinoderm. Pseudostomes, plural of pseudostome. Pseudostrabismic, characterized by pseudostrabismus. Pseudostrabismus, the false appearance of strabismus or crossed eyes. Pseudostratification, the property of being pseudostratified. Pseudostratify, having the outward appearance of being arranged in layers. Pseudostreamer, a bright loop-like structure in the corona of a star, similar to a helmet streamer but connecting coronal holes of the same magnetic polarity. Pseudostreamers, plural of pseudostreamer. Pseudostreaming, the seeking of a portion of a streamed video that has not yet been downloaded. Pseudostroma, a body in some lichens that resembles a stroma. Pseudostromata, plural of pseudostroma. Pseudostromatic, relating to pseudostromata. Pseudostutter, to produce deliberate stuttering speech, sometimes used as part of therapy to control a stutter. Pseudostuttered, Simple past and past participle of pseudostutter. Pseudostuttering. The deliberate production of stuttering speech, sometimes used in therapy to teach a patient to control a stutter. Pseudostutters. Third person singular simple present indicative of pseudostutter. Pseudostyle. The hidden part of the stigmatic crest. Pseudostyles. Plural of pseudostyle. Pseudosubstrate. Any substance that mimics the substrate of an enzyme and thus inhibits its activity. Pseudosubstrates. Plural of pseudosubstrate. Pseudosuccian. Belonging to the pseudosuccia. Pseudosuccians. Plural of pseudosuccian. Pseudosucker. Any body part that is not a sucker but is used like one. Pseudosuckers. Plural of pseudosucker. Pseudoshover. A form of sugar alcohol in which the ring oxygen atom of a hexapyranose is replaced by a methylene group. Pseudoshovers. Plural of pseudoshover. Pseudosuicidal. Synonym of pseudocidal. Pseudosuicide. Synonym of pseudocide. Pseudosuicides. Plural of pseudosuicide. Pseudosulci. Plural of pseudosulcus. Pseudosulcus. A groove that has the appearance of a sulcus. Pseudourvis. An extended region, often parallel to a surface, that in some way acts as if it were a surface. Pseudourvices. Plural of pseudourvis. Pseudosyllogism. A false syllogism, one that is not logically coherent. Pseudosyllogisms. Plural of pseudosyllogism. Pseudosyllogistic. Being or relating to a pseudosyllogism. Pseudosylvian. Describing an extension of the lateral sulcus on each hemisphere of the brain. Pseudosymmetric. Exhibiting pseudosymmetry. Pseudosymmetrical. Exhibiting pseudosymmetry. Pseudosymmetrically. In a pseudosymmetric manner. Pseudosymmetries. Plural of pseudosymmetry. Pseudosymmetry. Apparent symmetry of a crystal due to twinning. Pseudosynesthesia. Alternative form of pseudosynesthesia. Pseudosynchronous. In which all clocks have a long-term frequency accuracy compliant with a priori reference clock without necessarily being connected to it. Pseudosynchrony. Apparent synchrony caused by viewing from multiple frames of reference. Pseudosyncope. A condition clinically similar to syncope but not truly syncopal in nature, being caused psychogenically, thus apparent fainting but without concomitant hemodynamic and electroencephalographic changes. Pseudosynesthesia. A condition resembling synesthesia that is not true synesthesia. Pseudosynovial. Having the properties of synovial fluid, but not originating in the synovium. Pseudotabes. A syndrome with the characteristics of tabes, especially tabes dorsalis, that is not caused by syphilis. Pseudotabetic. Resembling, but not actually, tabes. Pseudotabular. Having some tabular characteristics. Pseudotachyllite. A dark, glassy rock generated by frictional heat within faults. Pseudotachylites. Plural of pseudotachyllite. Pseudotachylitic. Of, pertaining to, or characteristic of pseudotachyllite. Pseudotachyllite. Alternative form of pseudotachyllite. Pseudotachylites. Plural of pseudotachyllite. Pseudotal. An appendage that is similar to a tail in location and gross appearance but which lacks some of the features of a true tail. Pseudotals. Plural of pseudotal. Pseudotannin. Any of a diverse group of low molecular weight compounds such as gallic acid that have some similarities to the tannins. Pseudotannins, plural of pseudotannin. Pseudoteroxasterol, an ursine triterpenoid with the molecular formula CHO. Pseudotaxodont, having many irregular short teeth transverse to the hinge that are not C-tenodont or pseudotennodont forms. Pseudotaxonomic, falsely or artificially taxonomic. Pseudotaxonomy, a false or artificial taxonomy. Pseudotechnical, apparently, but not actually, technical. Pseudoteeth, plural of pseudotuve. Pseudotegumenal, relating to the pseudotegumen. Pseudotemperate, apparently temperate. Pseudotemporal, apparently temporal. Pseudotemporally, in a pseudotemporal manner. Pseudotensor, a quantity that transforms like a tensor under a proper rotation but gains an additional change of sign under an improper rotation. Pseudotensorial, relating to a pseudotensor. Pseudotensors, plural of pseudotensor. Pseudotentacle, a tentacle-like outgrowth found on various species. Pseudotentacles, plural of pseudotentacle. Pseudoterminal, a pair of pseudo-devices that can communicate with each other without the hardware that a true device would require. Pseudoterminals, plural of pseudoterminal. Pseudoternary, that appears to consist of three phases. Pseudotetanus, a group of symptoms resembling those of tetanus, but not actually caused by tetanus. Pseudotetany, pseudotetanus. Pseudotetragonal, that resembles the tetragonal system in shape but lacks its exact symmetry. Pseudotetrahedral, approximately tetrahedral, typically as a result of having two bidentate ligands. Pseudotetramer, a grouping of two dimers. Pseudotetrameric, relating to a pseudotetramer. Pseudotetramers, plural of pseudotetramer. Pseudotetraploid, apparently tetraploid but actually doubly diploid. Pseudotetraploidy, the condition of being pseudotetraploid. Pseudothalidomide syndrome, synonym of Roberts syndrome. Pseudothalli, plural of pseudothalus. Pseudothaline, that resembles the thallus but is not actually part of it. Pseudothallus, the axis of a crowded inflorescence as a glomerule or umbel. Pseudothecia, plural of pseudothecium. Pseudothecium, an ascocarp resembling a perithecium but whose asci are not regularly organized into a hymenium and are bitunicate, having a double wall which expands when it takes up water and shoots the enclosed spores out suddenly to disperse them. Pseudothelphusid, any crab in the family Pseudothelphusidae. Pseudothelphusids, plural of pseudothelphusid. Pseudotherapeutic, as if, but not actually, therapeutic. Pseudothermal, having characteristics similar to those of a thermal object or thermal radiation. Pseudothrombocytopenia, a spuriously lowered level of platelets. Pseudothrombocytosis, falsely elevated platelet count due to other cells being counted as platelets. Pseudothrombophlebitic, relating to pseudothrombophleboitis. Pseudothrombophleboitis, the presence of signs and symptoms of phlebitis in the absence of a thrombophlebitis lesion. Pseudothrombosis, any medical condition that resembles thrombosis. Pseudothrombus, a figure that resembles a thrombus on scans. Pseudothumb, a digit on a vertebrate that resembles but is not a thumb. Pseudothumbs, plural of pseudothumb. Pseudotime, an inferred time in the development of a cell. Pseudotimes, plural of pseudotime. Pseudotyrolide, any ammonite in the family Pseudotyrolidae. Pseudotyrolidids, plural of pseudotyrolidae. Pseudotolerance, a patient's requirement for an increased dose of a drug for reasons other than the patient's body having come to tolerate the existing dose. Pseudotolerant, apparently but not actually tolerant, faking a tolerant attitude. Pseudotooth, an excrescence of bone in some primitive birds that resembles a tooth. Pseudotopaz, a quartz that resembles topaz. Pseudotorticollis, abnormal positioning of the head for ocular reasons. Pseudotrachecular, resembling the form of a trachea. Pseudotraditional, having a false veneer of tradition, apparently but not actually traditional. Pseudo-trained, having undergone pseudo-training. Pseudo-trajectories, plural of pseudo-trajectory. Pseudo-trajectory, a false trajectory that approximates the real one. Pseudotransduction, the appearance of transduction in an experiment as a result of the use of impure viruses. Pseudotree, a connected pseudoforest. Pseudotrees, plural of pseudotree. Pseudotrefoil, a pseudoknot in the form of a trefoil. Pseudotrefoils, plural of pseudotrefoil. Pseudotriaceae, any member of the family Pseudotriacidae of false catcharks. Pseudotriacids, plural of pseudotriaceae. Pseudotrial, a form of trial in which a randomized control is not possible or would be unethical, the same participants being repeatedly observed. Pseudotrials, plural of pseudotrial. Pseudotriangle, any subset of a plane that lies between any three mutually tangent convex sets. Pseudotriangles, plural of pseudotriangle. Pseudotriangulation, the partitioning of the plane into pseudotriangles. Pseudotriangulations, plural of pseudotriangulation. Pseudotrichome, a structure similar to a trichome. Pseudotrichomes, plural of pseudotrichome. Pseudotrichinotic, any fish in the family Pseudotrichinotidae, the sand-diving lizardfishes. Pseudotrichinotids, plural of pseudotrichinotid. Pseudotrimer, an apparent trimer. Pseudotrimers, plural of pseudotrimer. Pseudotrisaccharide, the pseudosaccharide form of a trisaccharide. Pseudotrisaccarides, plural of pseudotrisaccharide. Pseudotropine, an isomer of tropine 3-8-methyl-8-bicyclo 3.2.1 octane 3L. Pseudotropines, plural of pseudotropine. Pseudotrunk, a false trunk formed by the roots etc. of certain trees. Pseudotrunks, plural of pseudotrunk. Pseudotrypsin, a protoform of trypsin. Pseudotubercular, relating to pseudotuberculosis. Pseudotuberculosis, any of several diseases that have the appearance of tuberculosis but are caused by organisms other than Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Pseudotuberculous, relating to pseudotuberculosis. Pseudotubular, apparently tubular. Pseudotumor, an enlarged portion of tissue that resembles a tumor. Pseudotumor cerebri, a disease characterized by increased intracranial pressure of idiopathic etiology, commonly affecting middle-aged women. Pseudotumoral, relating to a pseudotumor. Pseudotumors, plural of pseudotumor. Pseudotumor, Alternative spelling of pseudotumor. Pseudotumors, plural of pseudotumor. Pseudoturbinal, an incurved portion of the wall of the nasal chamber distinguished from the true turbinals. Pseudoturbinals, plural of pseudoturbinal. Pseudotympanum, a translucent, triangular area behind the opercle of some fish supposed to function in hearing. Pseudotympanums, plural of pseudotympanum. Pseudotype, a viral vector having envelope proteins from two types of virus. Pseudotyped, describing a chimeric virus formed with an alpha-viral envelope and a retroviral capsid. Pseudotypes, plural of pseudotype. Pseudotyping, the formation of pseudotypes by the exchange of viral envelope proteins. Pseudoumbilical, umbilical in the direction of the mean curvature vector field everywhere. Pseudoungulate, any mammal of the clade Pseudoungulata. Pseudoungulates, plural of pseudoungulate. Pseudounipolar, of a neuron having one axon that is split into two branches. Pseudounitary, preserving Hermitian indefinite forms. Pseudourea, isourea. Pseudoureas, plural of pseudourea. Pseudouridomycin, an antibiotic active against bacterial RNA polymerase. Pseudouridine, an isomer of uridine 5-ribosyluracil associated with RNA. Pseudouridines, plural of pseudouridine. Pseudouridinylation, alternative form of pseudouridylation. Pseudouridinolations, plural of pseudouridinylation. Pseudouridylate, any salt or ester of pseudouridyllic acid pseudouridine 5-phosphate. Pseudourydylated, simple past and past participle of pseudourydylate. Pseudourydylates, plural of pseudourydylate. Pseudourydylating, present participle and gerund of pseudourydylate. Pseudouridylation, the addition of one or more pseudouridine moieties. Pseudourydylations, plural of pseudourydylation. Pseudouracillid, any hypotrich of the family Pseudouracillidae. Pseudouracillids, plural of pseudouracillid. Pseudova, plural of pseudovum. Pseudovacuum, plural of pseudovacuum. Pseudovacuum, a quantum state that has many properties of a vacuum. Pseudovalidate, to perform or to undergo pseudovalidation. Pseudovalidated, simple past and past participle of pseudovalidate. Pseudovalidation, an informal or approximate validation. Pseudovalidations, plural of pseudovalidation. Pseudo-value, something that resembles a value but is not a true value or does not really belong to the set of data being studied. Pseudo-values, plural of pseudo-value. Pseudovaria, plural of pseudovarium. Pseudo-variable, a named value that acts like a variable but is not a true variable. Pseudo-variables, plural of pseudo-variable. Pseudo-varies, plural of pseudovary. Pseudovarieties, plural of pseudovariety. Pseudovariety, a class of algebras of a given signature, closed under the taking of homomorphic images, subalgebras, infinitary direct products. Pseudovariola, a milder form of smallpox, alastrim. Pseudovarium, the organ in which pseudo are produced. Pseudovari, archaic form of pseudovarium. Pseudovascular, apparently, but not actually, vascular. Pseudovector, a quantity that transforms like a vector under a proper rotation but gains an additional change of sign under an improper rotation. Pseudovectors, plural of pseudovector. Pseudovein, an apparent vein seen on an X-ray image due to hemorrhage. Pseudoveins, plural of pseudovein. Pseudovala, plural of pseudovelum. Pseudovalor, relating to the pseudovelum. Pseudovelocities, plural of pseudovelocity. Pseudovelocity, the high velocity of a shock wave. Pseudovelum, a velarium that resembles a velum. Pseudoverb, a noun or other part of speech that functions as a verb. Pseudoverbal, having some of the characteristics of a verb, though not in fact a verb. Pseudoverbs, plural of pseudoverb. Pseudoverticillate, appearing to be verticillate, but not actually so. Pseudoverticillately, in a pseudoverticillate manner. Pseudoviral, having the outward appearance of a virus. Pseudovirgin, a female of certain species that has mated but has not received sperm. Pseudovirgins, plural of pseudovirgin. Pseudovirion, a synthetic viral particle that cannot replicate, used to inject foreign nucleic acid into a cell. Pseudovirions, plural of pseudovirion. Pseudovirtue, false virtue. Pseudovirtues, plural of pseudovirtue. Pseudovirtuous, seemingly but not really virtuous. Pseudovirus, any of the family pseudoviruses. Pseudoviruses, plural of pseudovirus. Pseudovitamin, a vitamin-like analog that is biologically inactive in humans. Pseudovitamins, plural of pseudovitamin. Pseudoviviparous, relating to pseudovivipary. Pseudovivipary, the development of plantlets from vegetative buds. Pseudovolva, a false vulva-like opening in some worms. Pseudovulvi, plural of pseudovulva. Pseudovulval, relating to a pseudovulva. Pseudovulvas, plural of pseudovulva. Pseudovon, an egg-like germ produced by the agamic females of some insects and other animals and by the larvae of certain insects. It is capable of development without fertilization. Pseudowave function, a simplified approximation of an electron's wave function. Pseudoweight, the weight of a pseudo-code word. Pseudoweights, plural of pseudoweight. Pseudowhorl, any arrangement of tightly packed leaves that is not an actual whorl. Pseudowhorls, plural of pseudowhorl. Pseudowire, an emulation of a point-to-point connection over a packet switching network. Pseudowires, plural of pseudowire. Pseudowollastonite, a very rare cyclosilicate mineral. Pseudoword, a unit of speech or text that respects the phonotactic restrictions of a language but is not part of the lexicon, and non-word whose non-existence is merely an accidental gap. Pseudowords, plural of pseudoword. Pseudowork, something that appears to be work but is not. Pseudoxanthoma, any of several diseases of tendons and other tissues having some characteristics of true xanthomas. Pseudoxanthoma elasticum, a genetic disease that causes mineralization of elastic fibers in certain tissues, typically leading to premature atherosclerosis and to problems with the skin and eyes. Pseudoxanthomas, plural of pseudoxanthoma. Pseudoxanthomata, plural of pseudoxanthoma. Pseudoxenodontid, any colubrid snake of the family Pseudoxenodontidae. Pseudoxenodontids, plural of pseudoxenodontid. Pseudoxyhephae, any lapropid snake of the family Pseudoxyhephidae. Pseudoxyhephids, plural of Pseudoxyhephae. Pseudoxyhephaeang, any lapropid snake of the subfamily Pseudoxyhephaenae. Pseudoxyhephaeans, plural of Pseudoxyhephaeang. Pseudoyeast, any yeast that does not produce fermentation. Pseudoyeasts, plural of pseudoyeasts. Pseudoxiphidont, apparently xiphidont. Pseudoxiphidonti, the condition of being pseudoxiphidont. Pseudozwiterianic, resembling a zwitterian. Pseudozygopleurid, any gastropod in the family Pseudozygopleuриdae. Pseudozygopleuриds, plural of pseudozygopleurid. Pseudozygosphene, a rudimentary zygosphene present in early reptiles. Pseudozygospenes, plural of pseudozygospene. Toads, plural of pseud. Toady, characteristic of a pseud, pretentious. Pseudesthesia, rare spelling of pseudesthesia. Pseuate, any of a class of heterospirocyclic metabolites produced by Pseudorhodium ovalis. Pseudotinae, a bioactive metabolite of aspergillus. Pseudotins, plural of pseudotin. PSF, initialism of power steering fluid. PSF, initialism of pound per square foot. PSFA, initialism of public sector fraud authority. PSD, initialism of phrase structure grammar. PSDN, initialism of post-streptococcal glomerulonephrititis. PSD, abbreviation of passenger. PSDS, plural of PSDR. PSD, plural of PSD. PSH, initialism of puberty-suppressing hormone. PSH, synonym of Pshaw. This shot, dated form of Pshaw. This shot, dated form of Pshaw. Peshat, alternative form of Peshat. Pesha, a person from Pshavi in Georgia. Pshavi, a small historic region of northern Georgia. Pshavian, a dialect of the Georgian language spoken in Pshavi. Pshavs, plural of Pshav. Isha, indicating disapproval, scoffery, irritation, impatience, or disbelief. Isha, simple past and past participle of Pshaw. Pshawing, present participle and gerund of Pshaw. Pshaws, third person singular simple present indicative of Pshaw. E.g., initialism of personal social health education. PSHH, synonym of Pshaw. PSHHD, synonym of Pshaw. PSHRNA, probably modified shRNA. PSHRNA, plural of PSHRNA. PSHS, initialism of Philippine Science High School System. PSH, plural of PSH. PSAT, synonym of Pshaw. Thought, initialism of presentence in investigation. Tlut, the 23rd letter of Classical and Modern Greek and the 25th letter of Old and Ancient Greek. Psi function, a function of a complex variable obtained by differentiating the logarithm of a gamma function, the degamma function. Psi functions, plural of psi function. Psi particle, synonym of J/psi particle. Psi particles, plural of psi particle. The initialism of pounds per square inch, absolute and imperial unit of absolute, not relative, pressure, meaning total resultant pressure, including atmospheric or other ambient pressure. Sica pyranose, the pyranose form of siccose. Siccose, the monosaccharide 3R4R5R1345 6-penthydroxyhexane 2,1 that is an epimer of fructose. Siccoses, plural of siccose. Tidal, any member of the genus Psidium of guava plants. Didymus, plural of Psidium. That, pounds per square inch, gauge unit of pressure. Psikhashka, a mental hospital used for abusive psychiatric treatment of political dissidents. Psikhashkas, plural of Psikhashka. Philanthropic, relating to or embodying philanthropy. Philanthropism, philanthropy. Philanthropist, one who believes that Jesus Christ was a mere man. Philanthropists, plural of philanthropists. Philanthropy, the doctrine that Jesus Christ was merely human, i.e. not the Son of God. Philasteroside, a particular steroid glycoside. Cellate, lacking ornamentation, having very small scabbry. Sile, synonym of smooth breathing. Tilly, synonym of smooth breathing. Cellid, any member of the Psyllidae. Cellid, plural of psyllid. Coelo, slender. Coelus rotation, any ammonoid cephalopod of the superfamily Coelus retaceae. Coelus rotations, plural of Coelus rotation. Psilocin, 4-hydroxydamethyltryptamine, a hallucinogenic alkaloid found in most psychedelic mushrooms. Psilocybe, any mushroom of the genus Psilocybe. Psilocybes, plural of psilocybe. Psilocybin, a hallucinogenic alkaloid, CHN2OH2PO3, present in several species of Central American mushroom and producing effects similar to LSD. The prodrug of psilocin. Psilocybin mushroom, synonym of magic mushroom. Psilocybin mushrooms, plural of psilocybin mushroom. Psilocybins, plural of psilocybin. Psilocin, alternative form of psilocin. Zoe, the light infantry of an ancient Greek hemi, usually acting as skirmishers and missile troops. Psilomlane, any hard, black hydrous manganese oxide with variable amounts of barium and potassium. Psilomlanes, plural of psilomlane. Psilonuma, synonym of smooth breathing. Psilopedic, heading down on the dorsal side only. Psiloparmelioid, relating to lichen of the genus Psiloparmelia. Psilophyte, any plant that is adapted to live in a savanna. Psilophytes, plural of psilophyte. Psilophytic, relating to psilophytes. Psiloptery, any extinct forest resid of the genus Psilopterus. Psilopterines, plural of psilopterine. Psilorhynchid, any fish in the family Psilorhynchidae. Psilorhynchids, plural of Psilorhynchid. Psiloritis, a massif on the island of Crete that includes Mount Ida. Psilos, singular of Scilli. Dolothus, the sound change by which Greek lost the consonant sound /h/ during antiquity. H dropping. Philosopher, a false philosopher. Philosophers, plural of philosopher. Psilostating, any of a group of bioactive isolates of Ambrosia. Psilostatians, plural of psilostatian. Psilostomatid, any trematode in the family Psilostomatidae. Psilostomatids, plural of psilostomatid. Psilostrophy, any member of the genus Psilostrophy. Psilostrophes, plural of psilostrophy. Psilotaceous, of or relating to the Psilotaceae. Tolade, of or relating to Psilocysts. Psilodophyte, any of the whisk ferns of order Psilotales. Psilodophytes, plural of psilodophyte. Denas, a surname. De, the Siameson, a subatomic particle. Dome, of or relating to cyanics. Danepwe, by means of cyanics. Danizes, a person with psionic powers. Danicists, plural of psionicists. Ionics, mental powers, especially those under conscious control, that affect physical matter, such as telekinesis. Duns, plural of psion. Sir, initialism of presentence investigation report. Sir, plural of sir. Size, initialism of posterior superior Eliac Spain. Dies, plural of psi. Psi says, plural of size. Ties, plural of size. Cytherism, the sound of rustling leaves or wind in the trees. Cytherisma, obsolete spelling of cytherism. Cetaceous, of or relating to ceticids, a group of parrots. Cetacid, any member of the family Ceticidae of African and Neotropical parrots. Cetacids, plural of cetacid. Cetaciform, belonging or relating to the order Cetaciforms of parrots and some other birds. Cetacine, of or pertaining to parrots. Cetacines, plural of cetacine. Cetacinite, synonym of matrimite. Cetacesum, mechanical, repetitive words used without understanding or consideration. Cetacesums, plural of ceticism. Cetaciste, of or relating to ceticism. Psittacophalvin, a type of yellow pigment found in the feathers of parrots. Psittacophalvins, plural of psittacophalvin. Psittacosaur, any dinosaur of the family Psittacosauridae, a Psittacosaurus. Psittacosaur, any dinosaur of the family Psittacosauridae, a Psittacosaurus. Psittacosaurs, plural of psittacosaurid. Psittacosaurs, plural of psittacosaur. Psittacosaurus, any of several dinosaurs of the genus Psittacosaurus that lacked horns. Psittacosauruses, plural of Psittacosaurus. Psittacoses, plural of psittacosis. Psittacosis, an infection by chlamydia bacteria caught from infected birds and characterized by fever, pneumonia, and headaches. Psittacotic, relating to psittacosis. Psittaculid, any parrot in the family Psittaculidae. Psittaculids, plural of sideculate. Sivav, a person who claims to consume the psychic energy of others as part of the vampiroid subculture. Sivamps, plural of sivamp. Pesgay, initialism of phase-shift keying. Piscati, alternative form of Pascati. Piscau, an oblast in northwestern Russia. Piscovian, of, pertaining to, or characteristic of Pskov, its people, culture, or language. Piscovians, plural of Piscovian. Piskovskochutsko, alternative form of Piskovskochutskoy. Piskovskochutskoy, synonym of papus. PSGay, plural of PSGay. PSL, initialism of parallel slalom. PSL, abbreviation of Proto-Slavic. PSLE, initialism of primary school leaving examination and national examination taken at the end of the final year of primary school, regarded as a high-stake examination determining the ability to enter a secondary school of choice. PSLF, initialism of public service loan forgiveness. PSL, plural of PSL. PSLV, initialism of Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. PSLV, plural of PSLV. PSA, initialism of Professional Scrum Master. PSA, plural of PSM. PSA, initialism of PlayStation Network. PS9, initialism of Police Service of Northern Ireland, created in 2001 as a successor to the Royal Ulster Constabulary RUC. PSNR, initialism of peak signal-to-noise ratio. PSNR, plural of PSNR. PSNS, initialism of parasympathetic nervous system. PSNS, plural of PSNS. Initialism of public safety officer. Plural of SOAS. Plural of SOAS. Either of two muscles, the psoas major and psoas minor, involved in flexion of the trunk. Psoas major, the psoas muscle involved in the flexion of the trunk and thigh. Psoas minor, the psoas muscle involved in the flexion of the trunk, specifically the lumbar vertebral column, located anterior to the psoas major. Ptothas, plural of psoas. Relating to the psoas. Zazid, any insect of the family Saucidae. Zazids, plural of saucid. Secodien, any insect of the superorder and order Secodia. Secodiens, plural of Secodien. Socapteran, any insect of the order Socaptera. Socapterans, plural of Socapteran. Socopterus, of or pertaining to the taxonomic order Socoptera. Saurai, plural of Sogos. Sogos, a speech that attempts to insult, degrade, or otherwise attack something. Plural of psoas. Psoides, inflammation of a psoas muscle or its sheath. Solid, any member of the family Solidae of sea cucumbers. Solids, plural of solid. Somophagy, exhibiting or relating to somophagy. Somophagus, one who practices somophagy. Somophagus, plural of somophagus. Somophagy, the condition of not chewing food before swallowing it. 7. Any member of the Sophidae, a trumpeter. 7. Plural of Sophia. Sophometer, an instrument used in telecommunications to measure the noise of a telephone circuit. Sophometers, plural of sophometer. Or a cutaneous disease, especially psoriasis, scabies, or mange. Soralia, any of the plants of the genus Soralia. Soralias, plural of Soralia. Sorellen, any of a group of Furinocalmarins from the seeds of various plants that are used to treat psoriasis, eczema, and vitiligo. Sorelline, alternative form of sorellin. Sorellines, plural of sorelline. Sorelnaceae, a glycoside present in Soralia coralifolia. Sorellins, plural of sorellin. Psoriasis, plural of psoriases. Psoriasis, misspelling of psoriatic. Psoriasioin, resembling psoriases. Psoriasin, an inflammatory calcium-binding protein found on human skin. Psoriasis, a non-contagious disease whose main symptom is gray or silvery flaky patches on the skin which are red and inflamed underneath when scratched. Psoriatic, of pertaining to or suffering from psoriasis. Psoriatics, plural of psoriatic. Tori, of or pertaining to Sora. Sorgastana, an affectionate name used by Greeks of their homeland. It has intimations of poverty and affection. Soramic acid, an acid found in some lichens. Sorophthalmia, an itchy inflammation of the eyelids. Sorophthalmic, of or pertaining to sorophthalmia. Sorophthalmia. Soropte, pertaining to or caused by mites of the genus Sorops. Sauroptid, any mite in the family Sauroptidae. Sauroptids, plural of sauroptid. Saurosperm, a minute parasite, usually the young of Gregarini, in the pseudonavicular stage. Saurosperms, plural of saurosperm. Oh, plural of PSO. PSB, initialism of phenylsulfomphthalene. PSBase, the set of all decision problems that can be solved by a Turing machine using an amount of memory, which is a polynomial function of the input size. PSPO, initialism of public space protection order. PSPO, plural of PSPO. PSB, plural of PSB. Used to call a cat. PSR, abbreviation of pulsar. PSRI, initialism of pre-sunrise authorization. PSRNA, initialism of polysome-associated RNA. PSRNA, alternative form of PSRNA. PSRNA, plural of PSRNA. PSRNAs, plural of PSRNA. PSR, plural of PSR. PSS, initialism of post-Astrai syndrome. PSS, abbreviation of SAMS. PSSE, initialism of post-Astrai sexual dysfunction. PSSD, plural of PSSD. PSSH. Synonym of Pshaw. PSA, alternative form of Pshaw. PSSHE, synonym of Pshaw. PSSO, initialism of pass slip stitch over. PSSSE. Alternative form of pst. Implies that the speaker is sending secret or whispered information to another person. PS that. Simple past and past participle of ps. PS thing, present participle, and gerund of ps. PSAS. Third person singular simple present indicative of ps. PSE. Initialism of Proto-Sino-Tibetan. PSE. Alternative form of ps. PSE. Initialism of public switched telephone network. PSE. Plural of PSEN. Piotr Konski. A surname from Polish. PSU. Initialism of power supply unit. PSU. Initialism of practical salinity unit. Pseudo. Misspelling of pseudo. Pseudo. Misspelling of pseudo. Pseudophakic. Misspelling of pseudophakic. Pseudoprogression. Misspelling of pseudoprogression. Pseudosubstrate. Misspelling of pseudo. Substrate. PSUs. Plural of PSU. PSVR. Initialism of PlayStation VR. PSVR. Plural of PSVR. PSVE. Initialism of paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia. PSW. Initialism of program status word. PSW. Plural of PSW. PSX. The original PlayStation, first release 1994. SIA. Alternative form of SIA. SIAPS. Alternative form of SIAPS. Psi.D. Abbreviation of Doctor of Psychology. Psybian. A musical genre that is a fusion of citrance and ambient. Psychology or psychiatry. Psychtho. A genre of folk music influenced by psychedelic rock and possessing a dark, sinister tone. Psych out. To outsmart. Psych outs. Plural of psych out. Psych up. To motivate, encourage, or mentally emotionally prepare. Psych ver. A verb indicating a change in psychological state, such as shock, encourage, or agitate. Psych verbs. Plural of psych ver. Alternative form of psycho. Sci-fi. Psychedelic fiction. Psycho. A fan of the American detective comedy drama television series Psych. Psycho-S. Plural of psycho. Psych. Abbreviation of psychology. Psyche. Psychological pain. Psychagogic. Attractive, persuasive. Psychagai. A necromancer. Psychagogs. Plural of psychagog. Psychagai. Guidance of the soul. Psychol. Having to do with the psyche. Psychalgia. Psychogenic pain. Physical pain of psychological origin. Psychalgia. Plural of psychalgia. Psychalgic. Of or relating to psychalgia. Psychoanalysis. Plural of psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis. Alternative form of psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis. A psychoanalyst. Psychoanalysis. Plural of psychoanalysis. Psychoanalyst. Alternative form of psychoanalyst. Psychanalysts, plural of psychanalysts. Psychanalytic, alternative form of psychoanalytic. Psychanalytical, alternative form of psychoanalytical. Psychanalytically, alternative form of psychoanalytically. Psychasthenia, a psychological disorder characterized by phobias, obsessions, compulsions, or excessive anxiety. Psychasthenias, plural of psychasthenia. Psychasthenic, affected with or relating to psychasthenia. Psychasthenics, plural of psychasthenic. Psyche, the personification of the soul, originally a mortal princess who later married Eros/Cupid, the god of love, was deified and bore him a daughter, Hedon/Voluptas. Psyche-not, synonym of Grecian knot. Psyche-knots, plural of psyche-knot. Psychian, of or relating to the Greek god Psyche. Psych, thrilled, excited. Psyched out, simple past and past participle of psych out. Psyched up, in a state of heightened mental preparedness for a difficult or hazardous enterprise or one where success is particularly sought. Psychedelia, the subculture associated with those who take psychedelic drugs. Psychedelias, plural of psychedelia. Psychedelic, of, containing, generating, or reminiscent of drug-induced hallucinations, distortions of perception, altered awareness, etc. Psychedelic circus, a wild party where the drug acid is taken. Psychedelic circuses, plural of psychedelic circus. Psychedelic crises, plural of psychedelic crisis. Psychedelic crisis, a bad trip. Psychedelic folk, alternative form of psych folk. Psychedelic frogfish, a species of frogfish, Histiophryne psychedelica, with a yellow-brown or peach color, together with pink and white stripes arranged in a fingerprint pattern, living in the waters near Ambon Island and Bali, Indonesia. Psychedelic frogfishes, plural of psychedelic frogfish. Psychedelic mushroom, synonym of magic mushroom. Psychedelic mushrooms, plural of psychedelic mushroom. Psychedelic rock, a genre of rock music influenced by psychedelia, blues, jazz, folk music, electronic music, and the hippie counterculture of the 1960s. Psychedelic soul, a genre of popular soul music influenced by psychedelic rock and funk. Psychedelically, in a psychedelic manner. Psychedelicize, to make psychedelic. Psychedelicize, simple past and past participle of psychedelicize. Psychedelicizes, third person singular simple present indicative of psychedelicize. Psychedelicizing, present participle and gerund of psychedelicize. Psychedelics, plural of psychedelic. Psyches, plural of psyche. Psydiana, a new thought denomination created in 1928 by Frank Bruce Robinson, 1886-1948, headquartered in Idaho and operating largely by mail order. Psychiater, a psychiatrist. Psychiaters, plural of psychiater. Psychiatria, archaic form of psychiatry. Psychiatry, of or relating to psychiatry. Psychiatric deluge, the dominating influence on social work of ideas from psychoanalysis. Psychiatric hospital, a medical facility specializing in inpatient mental health treatment. Psychiatric hospitals, plural of psychiatric hospital. Psychiatric nurse, a nurse who works on a psychiatric ward and is trained to work with patients with mental health needs. Psychiatric nurses, plural of psychiatric nurse. Psychiatric ward, a facility for treating patients with mental disorders, a mental hospital. Psychiatric wards, plural of psychiatric ward. Psychiatrical, synonym of psychiatric. Psychiatrically, in psychiatric terms or by means of psychiatry. Psychiatrics, plural of psychiatric. Psychiatries, plural of psychiatry. Psychiatrization, non-Oxford British English Standard spelling of psychiatrization. Psychiatrize, alternative form of psychiatrize. Psychiatrize, simple past and past participle of psychiatrize. Psychiatrizes, third person singular simple present indicative of psychiatrize. Psychiatrizing, present participle and gerund of psychiatrize. Psychiatrist, a medical doctor specializing in psychiatry. Psychiatrist-like, resembling a psychiatrist. Psychiatrists, plural of psychiatrists. Psychiatrization, the act or process of psychiatrizing. Psychiatrize, to make psychiatric, to bring into the realm of psychiatry. Psychiatrize, simple past and past participle of psychiatrize. Psychiatrizes, third person singular simple present indicative of psychiatrize. Psychiatrizing, present participle and gerund of psychiatrize. Psychiatry, the branch of medicine that focuses on mental and behavioral health by subjectively diagnosing, treating, or preventing mental disorders, mental illnesses, and behavioral conditions. Psyche, a person who possesses or appears to possess extrasensory abilities such as precognition, clairvoyance, and telepathy, or who appears to be susceptible to paranormal or supernatural influences. Psychic death, a stage in which a dying person begins to accept their death and as a result withdraws from others and regresses into the self. Psychic deaths, plural of psychic death. Psychic driving, a psychiatric procedure of the 1950s and 1960s in which patients were subjected to a continuously repeated audio message on a looped tape to alter their behavior. Psychic numbing, the tendency for individuals or societies to withdraw attention from traumatic past experiences or future threats with major consequences but low probability. Psychic photography, spirit photography. Psychic prayer, any prayer that does not conform with the Word of God. Psychic prayers, plural of psychic prayer. Psychic surgeon, one who carries out psychic surgery. Psychic surgeons, plural of psychic surgeon. Psychic surgeries, plural of psychic surgery. Psychic surgery, a medical fraud in which a practitioner creates the illusion of performing surgery with his or her bare hands, using fake blood and other trickery. Psychic vampire, synonym of energy vampire, an emotionally draining person. Psychic vampires, plural of psychic vampire. Psychical, performed by or pertaining to the psyche, the mind, spirit, or both, mental, psychic. Psychically, in a psychical or psychic manner. Psychicism, the study of psychic ability. Psychicess, someone who studies psychic behavior or phenomena. Psychicess, plural of psychesis. Psychicity. Synonym of psychicness. Psychically, in a psychic fashion. Psychicness, the quality or degree of being psychic. Psychics, plural of psychic. Psychid, any of the family Psychidae, a bagworm. Psychids, plural of psychid. Psycho, a subgenre of citrons that is influenced by Regi and Sibient. Psyching, present participle and gerund of psyche. Psyching out, present participle and gerund of psych out. Psyching up, present participle and gerund of psych up. Psychism, the old doctrine that there is a fluid continuity universally diffusing and equally animating all living beings, the difference in their actions being due to the difference of the individual organizations. Psychisms, plural of psychism. Psychist, one who believes in the theory of psychism. Psycheste, relating to psychism. Digests, plural of psychists. Psycho, psychotic, psychopathic, or broadly otherwise insane. Psycho-bitch, alternative spelling of psycho-bitch. Psycho-bitches, plural of psycho-bitch. Psycho, relating to the soul, the mind, or to psychology. Psychoaesthetic, pertaining to psychoaesthetics. Psychoaesthetics, an interdisciplinary field that studies the interplay between psychological processes and aesthetic perception. Psychobity, synonym of haxploitation. Psychofunctionalism, a form of functionalism philosophical paradigm of mind based on the rejection of behaviorist theories in psychology and their replacement with empirical cognitive models of the mind. Psychofunctionalist, one who believes in psychofunctionalism. Psychophilosophical, alternative form of psychophilosophical. Psychosociophilosophical, having psychological, social, and philosophical aspects. Psychoacoustic, of or pertaining to psychoacoustics. Psychoacoustical, synonym of psychoacoustic. Psychoacoustically, in a psychoacoustic way. Psychoacoustician, an expert in psychoacoustics. Psychoacousticians, plural of psychoacoustician. Psychoacoustics, the scientific study of all the psychological interactions between humans and the world of sound, includes the perception and production of speech. Psychoactivation, activation by a psychoactive substance. Psychoactivations, plural of psychoactivation. Psychoactive, affecting the mind or mental processes. Psychoactively, in a psychoactive way. Psychoactives, plural of psychoactive. Psychoactivities, plural of psychoactivity. Psychoactivity, the ability for a substance to be psychoactive. Psychoaffective, pertaining to the emotional aspects of an individual's psychological makeup. Psychoaffectively, in psychoaffective terms. Psychoanal, abbreviation of psychoanalysis. Psychoanal, abbreviation of psychoanalysis. Psychoanaleptic, that restores mental health. Psychoanaleptics, plural of psychoanalepte. Psychoanalyzable, suitable for psychoanalysis. Psychoanalyze, alternative spelling.